Winners and losers of 2017, which are you? Credit Richard Allen for the Telegraph for stock market investors. It has been almost impossible not to make money over the past 12 months. The FTSE All share of listed British stocks has delivered total returns of nearly 11% in 2017, while the SP 500, the American equivalent, has produced double that. But not everyone has had a good year financially. Telegraph Money has looked back at the most shocking company blows-ups and embarrassing money blunders, as well as celebrating those lucky people who came out on top this year. From Bitcoin billionaires and the woman who won an £845,000 mansion in a raffle to David Beckham's failed film investments and embattled landlords, this is the financial year in review. Winners: Bitcoin holders, Sudbury homeowners, and lawyers. One of the biggest winners of the year was Marie Seeger from Warrington, who had the winning raffle ticket for an £845,000 Lancashire Manor house. Ms. Seeger, 51, spent £20 on 10 raffle tickets to win the 6-bed home. Owners Dunstan Lowe and Natasha Dobish resorted to raffling their home after it failed to sell by normal routes, and raised £998,000 by doing so. That win pales into insignificance against the increase in wealth some early Bitcoin investors have seen. The cryptocurrency has risen by 1,551% this year alone, turning £100 at the start of the year into £1,651 at the time of writing. However, that same £100 invested 3 years ago would be worth around £4,000 now. While Bitcoin has definitely been the most talked about asset of the year, a lesser-known investment has returned more than double Bitcoin. Investors in Venezuela's Caracas Stock Exchange's index of the 15 most traded companies saw their money rise 3,970% in 2017, more than any other index in the world. The bad news, though, was that this was largely the result of currency collapse and hyperinflation. The person who bought Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi for less than £50 in the 50s is one of the biggest winners of 2017 after the painting sold for £450 million in November. Credit Jeff Pugh for the Telegraph. Keeping with niche asset classes, holders of Zimbabwe banknotes saw demand soar, as people wanted souvenirs of Robert Mugabe's economically catastrophic regime. Some of these Zimbabwean banknotes, which had negligible or zero spending power when issued, now fetch more than £100. Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, savior of the world, grabbed the headlines this year when it was sold at auction for $450 million, £336 million. But the real winner was the person who bought the painting for £45 in the 50s, when it was mistaken for a copy. While many homeowners lost out this year, see below. First-time buyers were handed up to £5,000 each after stamp duty was scrapped for them. To qualify, they had to purchase property for £500,000 or less, and all buyers had to be first-timers. Even this group had some losers, as Telegraph Money was flooded with messages from those who had just missed the cut-off date. Homeowners in Sudbury, Suffolk, were also cheering, as their property prices rose by 13% in 2017, according to Rightmove, the highest growth anywhere in the country. However, HMRC was the real winner in the housing market, as in 2017 it collected a record £11.7 billion in stamp duty. HMRC collected a record £11.7 billion in stamp duty this year. Credit Gareth Fuller, PA. The UK's cash savers were given a glimmer of hope this year as rates began to pick up, and the Bank of England raised the bank rate to 0.5%. Thanks to the new and less established banks, savers can earn 30% more with an easy access account than at the start of the year. Premium bond holders were also winners this year, as the odds of them getting a bonus improved. The chance of becoming a millionaire hasn't changed, but there are now 4 chances to win £100,000 each month, up from 3. Savings rates were dwarfed by the gains that could be made from the people who got early £10 notes that went into circulation this year. The notes, featuring Jane Austen's face, all have a unique serial number. Early numbers, with the prefix AA01, could be valuable, but quirky ones such as the author's date of birth or the date she published Pride and Prejudice, could also fetch big bucks. Lawyers are winners most years, but this year they saw a spike in business thanks to a rise in postnups, the same as prenups, but drawn up after a marriage. For many, it's used to protect a surprise inheritance or windfall from their partner, but less cynical folk use it to make sure everything is split 50-50 on divorce. Losers, landlords, public school parents, and the Queen. After a decade of being winners, London property owners were losers this year. The 2016 Brexit vote and successive stamp duty increases have begun to reverse continual price rises. High-end prices in the capital are now 3.3% lower than in 2014, according to data from asset manager LCP. Estate agent Strutton Parker wound up a loser after suggesting that struggling first-time buyers give up coffees and takeaways to save the average deposits of £33,000. The firm was roundly and rightly derided on social media. Buy-to-let investors once again fell into the losers' camp when tax relief on mortgage interest began to be removed in April. By 2020 it will be gone entirely and replaced with credit at the basic 20% rate. The Paradise Papers revealed that millions of pounds from the Queen's private estate was invested in a Cayman Islands fund. Credit, Phil Noble. AFP mortgage borrowers on tracker or variable rates have also suffered. Bank rate rose to 0.5%, sending rate-linked mortgages up 0.25%. Worst affected are those on standard variable rates. Barclays customers, for instance, will now pay 4.99%. Bank rates rise was driven by rising prices, with inflation passing 3%, yet some groups have seen costs rise even faster. Residents in care homes have seen costs increasing at double that rate, while parents paying public school fees have also seen prices rise above inflation. They now stand at an average of £14,102 a year, despite booming stock markets. Some notable investors recorded an annus horribilis. Chief among these was fated fund manager Neil Woodford, who saw his reputation dented after several of his largest holdings blew up. For example, doorstep lender Provident Financial's share price plunged by more than 70% in August following another profit warning. The Paradise Papers, a multinational media investigation into an enormous data leak, laid bare the offshore investments of renowned politicians and businessmen. It lifted the lid on portfolios of the super-rich held in tax havens, including millions of pounds from the Queen's private estate that was invested in a Cayman Islands fund. Celebs including Gary Lineker lost a court challenge to overturn a £700 million tax bill. Credit, Jeff Gilbert. Scores of celebrities, including Gary Lineker and David Beckham, lost a court challenge to overturn a £700 million tax bill imposed after HMRC branded the ingenious film scheme as tax avoidance. It argued investors should repay tax relief unfairly claimed for artificial losses from movies. More modest investors using Barclays stockbroker service found its dumbing down as part of its relaunch as smart investor intolerable and left in their droves. Many of these were income investors who were also hit by cuts to the dividend tax allowance revealed by Chancellor Philip Hammond in his budget. From April 2018, only £2,000 will be tax-free. A much wider group, butter eaters, found themselves worse off this year too. Supermarkets were forced to increase the price of butter by 53%. Unfortunately, you're unlikely to save money by making it yourself, as Telegraph Money discovered. DIY butter only saves 8p per kilo. Britain's rail passengers were the big losers of the year, with commuters hit by the news that fares will rise by an average of 3.4%. The southern dispute also rumbled into the new year, causing delays and cancellations. The price of butter rose 53% this year. Credit, Andrew Tworth. Air passengers didn't have much more luck. First, technical problems meant 75,000 British Airways passengers were grounded in May. Then Ryanair cancelled hundreds of thousands of bookings following disputes with staff, before Monarch's spectacular collapse led to stranded holidaymakers and around 1,800 redundancies. The losers on Britain's roads turned out to be cell drivers. The Chancellor's November budget brought with it news that from April next year, if you buy a new cell car, you will have to stump up £500 extra for road tax in your first year. Lots of us ran into trouble spending our money. Credit card borrowers have seen their options drastically reduced, with 30% fewer cards on the market than 3 years ago. The number of perks have dwindled too. Households were dealt another blow as broadband prices shot up. Customers of BT will now pay up to £36 more than last year, while Virgin Media also hiked prices. Monarch's collapse meant 1,800 staff members lost their jobs. Credit, AFP. Many Brits unwittingly lost out this year, as new research showed that we now spend an average of £54 a month on subscriptions that we either don't know about or can't cancel. Many people who sign up for free trials find themselves trapped. Telegraph Money reader Janice Clee is one such person. She had £175 taken from her bank after she inadvertently signed up for weight loss supplements. Working parents should have been winners this year, but thanks to the poorly implemented 30 hours of free childcare policy, they fall firmly in the losers' camp. Parents soon found that nurseries couldn't afford the scheme, meaning some have to split their free hours between several providers. And while it's often said you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, the deceased of Kensal Green didn't have a great year. The area of northwest London was revealed to be the most expensive place for a funeral in Britain, with the average cost an eye-watering £6,516.